Hey guys, how's it going? It is Kire here with another Infinite Magicraid video, and in today's video, we're going to be reviewing the new heroes here in Infinite Magicraid. We have 2 new legendaries, 1 new epic. I wanted to wait for them to actually be in game because infographics that they release before the character comes out is borderline worthless in actually evaluating how good a character is. But I'll try to do my best here now that we actually have the character in game. First one is going to be Geeliman, I guess, a bizarre name, but whatever. So looking at her kit beforehand, I think the best way to understand her is going to be, let's run through her moves, and then we'll go into the trial, and just you can see him in action. And then also, she's a completely different character with exclusives. So we're going to do the non-exclusive version, and then we're going to do the exclusive version of her afterwards. And then I'll talk about where I think she's going to be useful. And then maybe kind of talk about that as we go forward. So TLDR, she's mainly going to be a Tower Mark character because of her ult here by being able to remove buffs. Like that's for sure. She's already going to be in there as one of the best, if not better than the current one that can remove buffs there. Not saying he's the only one, but I would say probably the best currently for the blue mark is this guy. But she's infinitely better than him at what he would do for Tower Mark. So let's break it down and I'll explain the mechanic. She has this arcane mechanic and the wisdom runestone mechanic. That's like her new things that are exclusive to her. So her auto attack here is deals 220% attack damage to a single enemy with a 100% chance when booked to inflict res buff, which is amazing. I absolutely love res buff. This is probably one of the best debuffs in the entire game. And what res buff does is it makes it to where the enemy can't gain buffs for 1 turn, and then grants self 1 layer of arcane afterwards. Okay, and then arcane can stack up to 5 layers right here. So keep that in mind through her auto attack or through her passive and stuff that you'll understand here in a second. And then her A2, this is what activates the arcane mechanic, is transfers all arcane owned by self to wisdom runestone, and additionally generates 4 wisdom runestones, and then shoots all the wisdom runestones afterwards. The runestones prioritize main targets when attacking, and then switch to attack the enemy target with the lowest HP when the main target dies. Each wisdom runestone deals 160% attack damage when booked. So basically, all this whole mechanic is when she stacks up arcane. So all this mechanic is when she stacks up arcane, think of that as when she shoots it, 160% attack damage. And then when she actually does the move, she's getting 4 more of those just guaranteed. So just add whatever you see plus 4. And then whenever she's targeting someone, it's kind of nice because usually if you do a big single target move, it's all going to go into the character. Doesn't matter if you overkill them or not. Whereas with this, it shoots them individually, and if you have any left over, it's going to target the person with the lowest attack, which I think is great, especially on auto or something like that. Or let's say you got to kill someone here, but you want to make sure that they're dead, and then you want to target someone else too. So it's kind of nice that it breaks it apart instead of just being this one major nuke to one character, and then you realize you like super overkill them, something like that. But that's really all the mechanic is. And then her passive, Geeliman, reflects the silence effect to the inflictor. So for example, if she's in arena and Ascenda goes down, she'll silence, instead of being silenced, she'll reflect that silence back. And we'll show that here in the trial. And then removes 1 random buff from an enemy whenever the attribute debuff on the enemy is cleansed. And then Geeliman has a 100% chance to grant self 1 layer of arcane when the buff is successfully removed from the target up to 5 layers. So this is just another way of being able to generate arcane. So she has her auto attack here, and she has her passive when she's removing buffs. And then her ultimate, I would say this is probably the best part of her kit, deals 200% attack damage to all enemies, and then removes all buffs from them with a 80% chance when booked to reduce their speed by 40% for 2 turns. So this is something that is guaranteed if you get enough effect hit over their effect resist. So this is a very good ultimate here on a 4-turn cooldown when booked. So I think that alone makes her pretty viable. But I think the issue with her, in my opinion, is she's hedging her bets. She's a damage dealer, but then also support. So it's kind of a bummer in that situation, even though a lot of her stuff is very easy to land when it comes to effect resist. She has a 100% chance here, so it takes barely any more effect hit to be able to actually land that. And she has an 80%er here. So that one's still, for what this effect is, on the speed down, because the only thing that actually requires affected here is going to be the speed down. The removal of buffs doesn't matter. So if you don't even care about the speed down, or if you don't mind landing it inconsistently, you can just not build her all damage or something like that, and then you just get a move that removes all buffs. But the modifier for damage on an AoE move is pretty low. It's like half as strong as you would want it on a nuker like that. But then she has good utility things, in my opinion. I think res buff on an auto attack is incredible, especially imagine her paired with Catherine. She's able to build arcane stacks here. She's able to put res buff consistently as she gets attacked. I think that's pretty good, especially in a PvP scenario, and then definitely in a Tower of Mark scenario. I think those are going to be the two places I can see her shining, but I don't know if she shines enough in Arena to ever justify building her in Arena, you know? Whereas I can see her as a character that you build only because she's either one of the new characters in your account, you have a lot of blue mark characters, and you want to push Tower of Mark. Like, those are the times that I see building her, just because she's so one way or the other. She can't decide which kind of character she is, a damage dealer or a support. So whenever you see that, usually the character's not that great. She does have a very big, one of the highest potential modifiers in the entire game when it comes to single target damage in her A2 here. It can do 1,440% modifier up to, and then exclusives it gets better. But let's actually see it just so you can kind of help understand this information here. How I like to do this is I set her, I'm going to put her exclusive 0, and then I'm going to get Catherine in here because she heals herself, also at exclusive 0. Makes it a little easier when testing. So here we can look at a few things. So here is her res buff on her auto attack, and then also here is what arcane looks like. And so as you can see, I'm going to be able to stack this up to 5. Okay, so notice how I'm blocking her ability to actually do her moves there, which I think is really good. Nothing's actually happening, which on an auto attack is great. Like, for example, res buff is normally on an ultimate. Like Ben Austin has it on his ult, for example, not on an auto attack. So then notice how she's fully stacked. I can't gain any more arcane. Then we can look here again at bursting knowledge. This is her A2. Transfers all arcane owned by self to wisdom runestone, and then generates 4. So we're going to see a ton of different attacks here, because it's going to be 9 just all getting shot at one person. So here we go, and that's going to be a ton of damage. Yes, I'm countered mark here, and I have no crit damage, attack, whatever, so it doesn't look that impressive, but it's very good. And then here's another example. I'm going to remove buffs and then use this passive here to be able to gain 1 layer of arcane. 100% chance to grant self 1 layer of arcane when buff is successfully removed from the target up to 5 layers. So this is also a good test here to see if I get 2, because she has 2 buffs. Let's see if I get 2 stacks of arcane or just 1. So boom, I get 2. So based on how many buffs you get, so you could theoretically get an absolute ton of buffs. Like, you steal all their buffs, or not steal, you remove all their buffs, but then you get 5 layers of arcane, and then you can nuke. And then that's going to lead into our exclusive discussion here in a second. But I do want to have one more test here for you guys when it comes to Ascendo. So let's go to attributes. Let's top off. And then let's throw in an Ascendo here and see what happens. Okay, let's see if that's a fast way to find her. I don't remember. Okay. There she is. Let's actually just go exclusive 0. And then let's see if she reflects it back. Boom. See, notice how she got silenced instead of Geeliman here. So that is very cool. That's very cool to see. And then we're going to try this one more time. I'm going to steal 2 buffs, and I should get 2 stacks of the arcane thing. Boom. And there it is. And so then I can target her and do a ton there. So I think that's really cool. Everything's working as intended. It's pretty good in these scenarios here. I don't really see too many things outside of an Ascendo trying to silence you, or Tower of Mark as something I would want to use her in, but it is cool to see these kind of new mechanics in action. Okay, now let's actually back out of here. We're going to read her kit and how it changes when she's exclusive 3. So we have, or let's see how it ramps up, because I think exclusive 1 is something realistic to look at, but as exclusive 3, not so much. No one really cares about that. Or at least 99.9% of people don't care about that. But the point I want to make here, though, is I don't like how this is working. Where here's the character, but look at how much she changes when you actually get her exclusive. I guess that I should preface it that way, where I don't like characters that the more you wail, like not only is the character just better, but it's like a whole new character. So exclusive 1 increases the number of wisdom runestones additionally generated by bursting knowledge from 4 to 6, and all wisdom runestones have an additional 40% piercing rate. So this right here, this exclusive 1 means that this is probably one of the hardest hitting nukes in the entire game. Right there. Because 40% piercing rate on all of these. They all do 160% attack damage, and you're guaranteed to get 6. So you could go up to 11. Imagine this. 11 times 160. That's 1,760% attack damage on a modifier and 40% piercing rate. So, hypothetically, it's the hardest hitting nuke. So you could just ignore this speed down. Who cares about that? Just take the ability to be able to remove buffs, and because that takes no effect in. And then let's look at her passive here. Refreshes the cooldown of bursting knowledge if a Geeliman has 4 or more layers of arcane at the beginning of her turn. So she just gets to get her massive nuke again. Bursting knowledge, that's her A2. She just gets it if she has 4. So that's pretty dope. At the beginning of her turn, or grant self 2 layers of arcane if Geeliman has no or less than 4 layers of arcane. So she gets to stack up arcane passively because of her exclusive 2. It's something she wasn't able to do at all beforehand. You would need to pair with someone like Catherine. And I can also see something like this happening where, let's say, you use this move here, and then you have Catherine, you have the counterattack, and then the enemies do all their moves, and then you start counterattacking, building up arcane, and then now you have 4 stacks. This is probably something that's not going to be that common, but potentially can happen. Or let's say you have 1 stack, you didn't do this, it's been a turn, you get this a little earlier because the counterattacking happens, and then now you have 4 stacks, boom, she goes, and then it reduces this cooldown. So that's something that she gains with this exclusive 2. And then she just gets those passive layers too if she has less than 4. No or less than 4 layers. And then lastly, her exclusive 3 additionally casts bursting knowledge once after casting intellectual prison. So this right here, this completely changes the character again in the sense that she gets to not only speed down everyone, she gets to remove all the buffs, and then she gets to cast the biggest nuke in the entire game on one character, modifier-wise. Might not necessarily actually work out that way because she doesn't have any built-in like crit rate or crit damage. So she gets this massive modifier nuke, but I would take a less modifier nuke, but have something like a Lucifer or a Zia where you get like 110% crit damage or like 70% crit damage, for example. That's going to come out to way more damage. So this right here is pretty absurd, but you do need to have exclusive 3. And I just feel like something like this is, I think it's cool, a cool mechanic. It's interesting. It's just unfortunate that it takes something like this it takes exclusive 3 to be able to get there. So for example, if we go back, let's actually, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this without getting outsped, because you have to change the team first. Here, I'll put Catherine in, have everyone exclusive 5. Okay, so we have buffs, and so I was kind of hoping for something like that. And then we'll do this. So see how we're building up arcane. Oh, are we dead? We're dead. Okay. Let's try. Let's get rid of Tifia. She's the one kind of getting in there. Let's go Luz. Okay. Okay, so I'm glad that works. Like the counterattacking and gets that going. Okay, so now I have max stacks right there, and then what I'm going to be able to do is I'm going to remove all of their buffs and be able to do the biggest nuke in the game. Let's see. I decided to pick all red marks to make this, not the greatest test, but I'm going to make sure to click on Megan, and then also, by the way, as I was counterattacking, I was applying res buff to all of these people. So that's another thing that's really good. And then here we go. We're going to just nuke her. And so I think that's actually pretty sick. You remove all the buffs. Doesn't necessarily mean you're going to apply the speed down because it's 80%, and then might not necessarily be worth to even care about affect it when you have so much potential damage. Like, let's see how this changes. If I go here and then let's max out her crit damage, max out her crit rate, and then just reset everything. I know this is an unfair test, but it's like I just kind of want to see it in action. So we're gonna wipe everything and let's try to nuke like Luz. So it's like not only did it just nuke them all, like, because that's another thing that's really cool about this is that if you overkill, and I think you can potentially have a lot of chance to do that when you have a modifier up to as high as 1,760% modifier there. It's not going to overkill them. It's just going to just keep picking characters and then nuke them all. So, maybe she has some potential here, but I feel like a lot of her potential is when she's like super exclusive down. It kind of reminds me of Dario in the sense that it's like, okay, Dario's a cool character. When you have him exclusive 3, he's just this brand new character. So it's like, what's the point of theory crafting? Because most people are never going to even get to that point. But overall, we're at worst case, I think Geeliman is a character that is going to be good, at least in a Tower of Mark. Worst case scenario. Other than that, I think she has a lot of potential. I really like this passive. Or not passive. I really like her auto attack. Very good auto attack. So that's my thoughts on Geeliman here. Now let's go to the next character. Okay, so now we have this second character here. And I legitimately think this character is easily one of the best characters in the game. He's so good, in my opinion. So I kind of want to just react with you guys as I'm reading this. Because we have deals 2 stages of 140% defense damage each to a single enemy. The first stage of which has a 50% chance or 70% chance, and that's key, how high a percentage this is, because then we can guarantee it. To reduce the target's attack by 40% for 2 turns, then the second stage has a 70% chance to inflict Horrify on the enemy for 1 turn. That is insane right there. Already, I'm a fan of this character, because that is a very good ability on an auto attack, and I don't think many people have that on an auto attack, if anyone at all, let alone on a 70% chance. So that's insane. Then we have grant self taunt and immortal for 2 turns and increases all allies speed by 40% for 2 turns, which is amazing, because if he's going to be taunting, you want that taunt to be on for a long time. And immortal, so he can't die, which is very important as well. Because if the whole thing is you're going to be taunting in this game with all the damage you're going to be taking, absolutely you're going to need to be able to not die there. Yes, if they have some way of cleansing the buff, oh well. But in PvE scenarios, this is amazing. Even in PvP, this is amazing. Especially when paired with like a Catherine or something, and every time they attack you, you're going to be applying Horrify and attack down to them. Very good. Then he has this passive here where he gets really insane, immune to freeze, stun, and hypnotize. And then Mamuk grants any ally a shield by 20% of max HP or 28% of max HP for 2 turns if the ally takes single skill damage that is above 20% of max HP or is inflicted with any freeze, stun, or hypnotize. So you can guarantee basically getting shields and protected in a PvP scenario if you're going against like a Nacil or something, or like a Nicholas. So that is very good. And cooldown 2 turns for each ally. Then he has this right here, steals all buffs except attribute buffs. But the best buffs, yes, attribute buffs are good, but the buffs that I want to get around are usually non-attribute buffs. That's the good ones. And so he's stealing like shields and counterattack, stuff like that, from all enemies. Deals 200% defense damage to all enemies and extends the duration of all buffs on self for 1 turn. So then, for example, you can do something like this. Here, he has Taunt Immortal, and then he can do this, and then be able to Taunt Immortal an extra turn there. So, overall, even at exclusive 0, I think this is an incredible character. This is like the one to shoot for, in my opinion. Especially just this part right here. This is going to help so much in PvE when it comes to bosses, in my opinion. And then, for the wave content, this is going to make things way more consistent for you. Because you could guarantee that no one's going to die, essentially. You just Taunt and Immortal them. They have to attack. Yes, there's going to be situations where they have AoE, but a lot of times they're going to be stuck, funneled in on trying to attack you or attack specifically Mamuk that can't die. and then you actually have time to be able to either kill them and or heal him so he's ready for the boss, because this guy is going to be like so good at being able to make sure everyone survives and gets to the next part of whatever encounter. So I wanted to just kind of show this off. Um, this combination here of having the attack down plus horrify is very good, and then he has this move here where he's forcing everyone to attack him, and then he has the passive that combos very well with this by immune to freeze, stun, hypnotize, grant self a shield. So here, let's go. Let's just make the enemy team like a lot of characters, and you can kind of get an idea here of that happening. So he's going to take damage. Let's see if he takes enough. Yeah, so right there. So he took enough damage there in one hit to be able to trigger that shield. And then let's change this. Go here, and then we'll change these characters out. So okay. So now let's get an example with Nasil here, but we got to actually add someone that can be frozen. So like, let's say we go here. Actually, I'm picking all the people that are immune to freeze. So this guy, we would need to drop him down. And then here, let's get frozen here, and then we'll have an idea. So he's frozen, but notice the shield. The shield procs there for that. And then it's only on a 2-turn cooldown for something like that. But that's going to be great in PvP, where if you're just trying to survive that initial like burst that they can do because of this, depending on who you're facing, that might not even matter if you don't get a chance to go soon, but it could help a bit. But I feel like people like most teams nowadays in Arena have a Lucifer, and I don't think a 20% shield is going to be enough, in my opinion. I think you're going to need to make sure you go. You're still going to need to be fast, and make sure that he can at least get his taunt off. Then it's going to be a difficult situation there, but you do got to worry about Ben Austin. Ben Austin is very meta when it comes to PvP, and he can just cleanse it. Removes all buffs from the enemy target, and then inflicts res buff for 1 turn. So keep that in mind too when it comes to this guy, that he's not like this perfect character here, but there is ways around it. But he is handling a lot of the issues in PvP as well. And then lastly, let's look at his exclusives, because I think he gets just like absurd with exclusives. So he is a 2, which I think is his probably best move, but I guess it's the combination of his passive plus that. I think proof of that. A character like this just doesn't work if you don't have good other moves around him, which is HAL 9000. So you have a character like this. He has his ultimate, Taunt Immortal for 1 turn, and Consolidation 2 for 2 turns. So he has something very similar, but this is like F-tier character. Because you look at his auto attack, deals 280% defense damage to a single enemy and gains 1 layer of decode. And then deals 400% defense damage to a single enemy. Each layer of decode increases defense damage. Like, who cares about any of this? And then each layer of decode reduces damage taken by HAL 9000 by 2% at the start of the turn. HAL 9000 restores HP. None of this matters because the damage is just too big and you're not doing anything preemptively. So what he's doing, it's just a whole new character. He's immune to all these things here and freeze, stun, and hypnotize. He's reducing damage and also with the attack down and reducing the ability of them to go, disrupting them with the horrify potentially. And the most important thing of all, in my opinion, the taunt is for 2 turns and he has immortal for 2 turns. Whereas you look at someone like Hal, that's very similar. It's on his ultimate, 4-turn cooldown. I believe the other one's 3-turn, and it's only for 1 turn. So if anything, I feel like this guy should be buffed to make the taunt and immortal for 2 turns, just to be kind of consistent, because it's just a massive power creep at that point, which is a bummer. But I think those reasons right there are the reasons why he's going to be like the difference between something so similar, God tier versus F tier. And then let's go back to the exclusives. So Mamuk gains 1 layer of engulfing power for every 5% of max HP lost after casting Brashly Taunt, which is this, and then up to 12 layers. Mamuk consumes all of the engulfing power at the end of his 2nd turn after casting Brashly Taunt and restores HP for all allies by 2% of Mamuk's max HP for each layer of engulfing power consumed, or immediately consumes all the granted engulfing power to restore HP of all allies if Mamuk dies before his effect is triggered. So that's another cool thing there, that he has something built in that even if he dies. So I think a combination of him and Luna is going to be insane for progressing content. Like, ignore PvP. I think this guy's just going to really push a lot of people to go further. And then also, I think this faction really needed something like this because I don't think it would have been possible for this faction. Maybe not. This is actually a pretty good faction for Faction Abyss. But having that attack down is really big for this. It makes such a big difference because they do have Agatha. I don't know if that even matters, to be honest, like, unless she's shielding everyone. Yeah, so it's like, that's another thing too. It's like, oh, there's so many factions in this game that literally can't do Faction Abyss. And I think something like this is going to go a long way in helping them out. And then we have, I think this is interesting, is exclusive too. Mamuk has an additional 35% healing effect. Besides, Mamuk grants self extra max HP cap by 30% of self healing effect. So you can crank up his effect hit and then give himself more max HP, I believe. Grants self extra max HP cap by 30% of self healing effect. And then he's giving himself 35% healing effect. So he's giving himself even more HP by doing that. And then if you wanted to, I think he would be one of the rare characters that's like a tank that would actually benefit from doing something like this, where you would put like healing effect here. You'd have like a healing effect move here, which would be funny because then you can also do something like with Catherine, you have the recovery horn aura. Then he has like, I don't know, 70% healing effect. Then you look at his actual healing amounts here, it'd be so much more. They're like 2% per thing here, but it's really 2%, but times like it's like 2%, or with an increased modifier of 70% or whatever, depending on how much you actually add on him. But he's making it so much easier, and then his max HP gets higher, which also increases the max amount. So it's very good there to be able to do that. Then is also increasing recovery horn aura's healing. I think this guy's he's just insane. And then lastly, I wanted to check this. Exclusive 3, whenever Energy Snatch steals 1 buff from an enemy, he absorbs 5% of their max HP, caps at 50% of his max HP for each buff, or restores HP for all allies if Mamuk's HP is 100% when absorbing. The way I looked at when I was doing the testing here, I don't think it actually like absorbs, because I was trying this versus like people that were doing damage, and then I didn't get any extra. Let's make sure I actually live here. Okay, so here's an example. We're gonna give this a shot here. I currently have this much HP, 412,490, and we're gonna try to absorb. And then let's read it just one more time. Okay, steals all buffs. Annexes the duration. Okay, well, it doesn't tell me. Okay, and then now I have the same amount. I didn't have 100% HP. I stole it, and then I don't actually absorb anything. Maybe that's a bug when it comes to the testing thing here. But as far as I read it, you would think that I'm gaining like max HP, like I'm actually taking their health, like their max cap, and it caps at 50% of his max HP for each buff, or restores HP for allies if Mamuk's HP percentage is 100% when absorbing. So I'm not too sure. Maybe it's just a heal. The absorbs is a very bizarre way to put that. But other than that, that's for like the 0.01% of people because that's exclusive 3. So that's pretty much it when it comes to testing this guy out. I think he's insane. I think the other character is a little questionable. But overall, very good character here. Okay, so then now we have Anton here. And after looking at his kit, I think he's going to be right up there as one of the top epic heroes in being able to help you out, whether it be through progression, pretty much anything. Like right up there with a Whim, right up there with Liz, in my opinion. So let's go through his kit, where we have basically deals 180% attack damage to a single enemy with a 80% chance to reduce their defense by 30% for 2 turns. That's nice. I love the high chances that they're doing here. Then he has restores all allies HP by 6% of max HP and increases their turn meter by 10%. It ends up going to 10% of HP of max HP on a 3-turn cooldown. Fantastic. And then when exclusive 1, I like to read the exclusives when it comes to epics because if it's a good epic, you're gonna at least exclusive 3 them eventually. It's pretty easy to do, especially relative to a legendary character. It's like no question. So then exclusive 1 cleanses 3 layers of dot debuffs from all allies. Amazing. And then increases all allies turn meter by 4% for 1 layer of dot debuff cleanse, which is also amazing. So it's like you have the 10% could go up to what? 12, so 22% turn meter increase if they have 3 dots. That's going to help a ton with progression. Then he has Anton gains 1 layer of Valor at the beginning of each wave at the start of his turn. And then basically what happens is if he takes damage, like massive damage, when he's booked, that would be 24% of his max HP, he'll stun them. And it's non-cleansable and also non-resistible. So that's going to help a ton with progression too. If you're taking a lot of damage, like especially in an AoE, he's going to be able to stun people for you, which is very good. It's going to help with actually being able to push through waves and not worry about dying too much. And then lastly, he has a 4-turn cooldown shield. That's the only kind of flaw here compared to like a Whim. Whim is on a 3-turn when you have exclusive 2, whereas his is a 40% shield, big percentage, which is nice. And then of Anton's max HP for 2 turns. So Shielder character here, Force Affinity, which is very good. A lot of people go Force Mark a ton. And then he gains Consolidation 1 for 2 turns when he's doing this. I really like that combination a ton. Usually, like on Whim, for example, you have to have him go multiple times. He's just going to do it 1 time and be able to apply both of those. And then in exclusive 3, increases the layers of Valor. Anton gains at the beginning of each wave to 3. And then he can only have up to 3 layers of Valor. So he can have those 3 layers immediately. So if he takes the damage, he's going to be stunning multiple people. You know, if that's the case scenario, you're probably wiping anyway, because if this is your support character taking that kind of damage, that many times, it's going to be a problem. But the fact that he even has that option is very good, especially with the combination of a very good heal, turn meter gain, and shield, and being able to remove dot debuffs, and do defense down reduction right here. I think he's a great character. He's so good. So, big fan of him. I really like that. You know, yes, there's going to be an insane meta-defining legendary here in Mamuk. They also gave us a meta-defining epic here in Anton. So overall, I think this is a good batch of heroes here. Curious to hear what you guys think down below. And with that, guys, I'm out of here. Peace.